Hey everyone, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture as we are back in the saddle once again for another season. And I do have a sponsor for today's episode. It is Nightwolf, born into the outcast breed of werewolves known as the Monakai. 18-year-old Rodney Marcel is reluctantly pulled into an ancient war between good and evil during a modern time where the line has blurred. With the help of Snowfall, the pure-blooded Monakai, and the supernatural evil slayer Night Hunter, Rodden must learn how to master his newly found the Panther 3 and mysterious kinetic energy powers that he only possesses. Rod must fight the Dark Covenant in order to avenge his friends and family and to save the girl he loves from the master vampire Lord Malice. Roddy Marcelli is Nightwolf. Nightwolf 1 to 7 is now live on Kickstarter through May 11th from the creator team of Rob Motari, Mog Park, Carlos Arena, and Gat Melvin. Join the Wolf Pack today by backing the Kickstarter at lonewolfcomics.com/Nightwolf. And enough about that, because I have with me Mindy Wheeler, who just successfully funded her latest Kickstarter. I think it was your first that you did by yourself, called Boobs. So, yeah, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I am doing fantastic, and obviously I'm super excited that you're on, and obviously you just funded Boobs, and I know that it's going to be eventually up for pre-order on your website. And so what is the basic premise for those who are hearing about it for the first time, might have missed the Kickstarter, might not have, picked up on it, and what's basically going on? Because it's a fun comic.
It does have a story and it does have boobs. To answer those two common questions right off the bat, the elevator pitch would be a ditzy yet attractive cosplayer and her photographer Sumchai can't avoid getting themselves in trouble despite her enormous assets. So she is a cosplayer and she has some adventurous times in the convention scene, but it is more than just that. So it's a really funny story, and my husband and I wrote it together, and here it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with this, and obviously, I mean, there's a superhero vibe to it. There's also obviously a con vibe to it. And how did this all come about? Because it's a fascinating book, and it's obviously, supposed to be what I think comics were meant to be, which are as a fun entertainment medium.
Exactly. Entertaining. It's supposed to be really fun. It's supposed to just be a good time for everybody, and it has been. The Kickstarter was super awesome. Everybody's had a lot of fun with jokes and puns and a good time, and that's what it's all about. The whole book is about that. It kind of started that way too. It kind of started as like a joke slash like very intriguing, could we do this idea of my husband's, and I was with him, and then we just laughed for like an hour and came up with these concepts, and we made it all the way through. He gave me a script, and that was about 2.5 years ago. And then he had to go off and work, and I had a baby, blah, blah, blah. We're finally here now. I've spent 2.5 years drawing it. Issue 1 and 2, which is like over 70 pages. And issue 2 will be launching soon. And I've kind of added to the story now. So it's a solid piece of entertainment and fun is what it is.
Yeah, and even to dive into this further, because I do definitely, obviously, I don't want to dive too much into the story and read some of it, but I do want to dive into some of the back end of it, where obviously it is a parody book. And obviously with a title like Boobs and that, and touching on bad girl art, and obviously, the main character is trying to, sort of be, I guess, a superhero, and she's got a sidekick, and she's got big assets, and obviously we see very sexy female characters. And so what is that like to really play in that space? Because it's tricky to do parody and do parody correctly. And obviously, you touch upon a bunch of different aspects, not just comics, but also at conventions and even what it means to be a hero. And it's super fascinating because it kind of shines a new light on it.
Well, I'm glad you think so. I think it's a parody satire. I usually combine those two words because I think the satire really is the stronger part of the two. It's the punchlines and it's the humor that comes a lot from pulling from personal experiences of being in the industry and going to conventions and meeting people, and having very strange experiences that we're pulling from with our humor. And so the parody is that, she's obviously not like any character in particular. She's just a cosplayer. She's a ditzy girl, running around at a show, putting on costumes, and it's the fun thing she runs into. And the satire is really on high. The jokes and the people are really like top, turned up as high as they can go. So that's fun. It's fun to do.
Yeah, and even to touch upon that, because obviously the comic industry is very, very, very interesting right now, and a lot of stuff is going on with it between the big two. Indie in particular has risen up. Not saying the big two are done yet. I think they're far from done, and I think they're far from being put out into the pasture. But even just drawing from your personal experiences too, because she does go to a con and she is a cosplayer. And what is that like to bring all those pop culture references in as well? Because it's just interesting to me when that's done and it's done correctly and it's done in a way that people can relate, because I think everybody who reads comics I think it'll be a hard find to find somebody who will say, what is this, if you're in this space.
Hmm. Well, done correctly. Those are the words that are ringing to me when you say that. To do a parody correctly, you have to bring a new, fresh, totally new meaning to the character. So that's, coming from a perspective of going to the show and just having those personal experience is quite the parody in of itself. Um, yeah, did that answer your question? I mean, I think that everybody recognizes it as quite silly, and that's funny because they all kind of know a cosplayer or two that reminds them like of their own personal experiences. So I think it's pretty relatable. And it's relatable in a lot of ways. The characters are very human. They're very much like you and I, playing around. And you'll just have to read it and see what you think and tell me how well I did and my husband did.
Yeah, let's dive into that too, because I think there's something going on in comics right now that the big two don't have, where an indie has it, and I guess maybe even lower tiers outside of Marvel and DC, where they're making characters that are now more relatable. And I think readers are starving for that, and they're trying to find characters that, hey, I relate to this character, I engage with this character, this character could be me. And I think it's a real, deficit where people don't relate, and we'll use DC. They don't relate to Superman. They don't relate to Batman. They used to. People used to relate a lot more to Spider-Man. And I think people still do to some degree. And that might be the last one. And so what is that like? Because when you say, hey, there's somebody who is everybody knows this cosplayer. And so that's something that it's very interesting. So what is that like for you to capture that? Because I think that's where comics are getting interesting on the indie sector.
They are. They are. I completely agree. And it's funny because it's ironic because bigger publishers, even all throughout all of our entertainment, they're trying to push the relatability, but it's going the wrong way. It's backfiring on them and they're not doing it right. Um, I read article recently, it was like on Rings of Power or something, and they said that the creator of that said, or somebody related said, that we need to reflect the values of the times. It's important that, everything's changed so much the past few years and we have to reflect those values. But actually, most comic fans that read comics are, I'd say, probably male, probably in the demographic of between 25 and 50. And we're all older. And so we don't really like it's hitting the wrong target. And in fact, the divorce rate is higher, the education level is lower, people are unhappier, there's mental health issues gone awry, there's more school shootings. So I want to know the real answer to that question. What exactly of the values of today are worth reflecting instead of going back in time when there were less problems and everybody was kind of like really enjoying the comic scene when people from every corner of the world will say how great all the comics were and will praise the stories from the big two and out at all the entertainment. Why is that not regarded in high regard? So that's what I think this story kind of brings back, and is that it's almost like laughing at how ridiculous this world is sometimes, and the comedy and the characters are really good at brushing that off and adapting to the world we live in, but not in the forced way where it's just unrelatable. It's like me telling the story about me if I was the character and what I think. And that's the problem with today's entertainment as a whole. In the mass produced world, they're not coming from perspectives like me or you. They're coming from very different perspectives that are just totally out of touch. So that's my opinion on that. It's much more fun on this side.
And do you also feel that obviously you're doing it in a very comedy, parody, satire way? And I feel that in particular, comedy is something that's very, people laugh at things, and laughter is a very hard thing to control and I guess suppress. Where if something is funny, naturally humanity wants to laugh at it. And you're doing this in a funny way, a satirical way. And do you think that also helps? Because I think that's sometimes things that are missing in comics where
Yeah.
you if you tell a joke that I'm going to use something that's offensive but it's really funny, it's forgiven in a lot of ways. And a lot of times an offensive joke that's not funny is criticized and scrutinized because it's not funny. And so do you feel that's part of it? Because when I see this book and I see the images and I see the basic story, I'm like, the title is called Boobs, but it's funny. And so you can get away with murder because it's a joke, it's a parody, it's making
Right.
fun of the whole industry and Comic Cons and a variety of other stuff, and you can get away with murder in a lot of ways.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's the point. The point is to be so extremely ridiculous that it actually brings everybody together. That's kind of my way of doing it because that's personally how I think like my husband and I sort of handle life. And actually what connected us both when we first met was how much we loved to laugh together. So it really is coming from a deep place of just like pure positive energy. And I don't think that I think people of all demographics and come from all backgrounds can share a laugh. Like there's nothing wrong with that. That's the real uh, ice to break. It is finding that that middle ground, and so much of like comedy is censored now and entertainment is censored now that like that this is what people want to live, especially with so much stress in the world that people deal with from day to day. This is what people actually want to read, I think, is something funny and entertaining that just lets all that go, and you'll find that everybody enjoys it and everybody has a good time. So that's how I personally deal with stress in my life anyways. So it's fun to write.
Yeah, and then obviously, I mean, the story just goes in its own direction. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and there's a lot of laughs. There's a lot of situational things that happen. But I do want to dive into the actual making of it because I think it's fascinating. Because I know this was conceived almost 2.5 years ago, and a lot of stuff happened during that time, and then things happen, and then life goes, and then obviously you get busy, life happens, certain events happen in your life, and then what was it like to, I guess, figure out when to work on it and then decide to go and say, hey, I'm going to get back doing this and then bring it to Kickstarter as well? Because it is tricky when you have a project and then it starts 2.5 years and then it was, I guess, finished up on Kickstarter a few days ago. And
Yeah.
it's been a bit of a journey and it's tricky because I would imagine most comics sometimes don't make it necessarily from idea to being done on a campaign, let alone fulfilled.
Good question. Yeah, it definitely has been a journey. We started it as an investment project, really to help fund a website, and we had a lot of fun with it. But back then, I didn't have any of the art done. It was a legit like Kickstarter project. We were accepting money to be able to fund the project, but then a lot of the funding fell through. So I guess I could call it a failure in the beginning. Because we didn't make enough to hire out the artwork and everything like I had planned to do. So as soon as that happened, I realized this is going to be a project. It's going to take a long time for me to get this done alone. So that it forced an evolution in me to really streamline my process and how I made books. And I will say it's been a good thing in the end. It has, because I was not ready to be a creator that drew my own books and put them out frequently. I was more of a cover artist. So it forced me to really like perfect my art, perfect my technique. I went from paper, physical paper, to inks, to flats, to colors, to letters. That's 6 steps per page. And I was doing it all myself. And I had a baby. I switched art programs twice and I lost files because that program bought out that program. So I had to relearn how to draw digitally twice. And life, and I have 3 kids now. So that in itself was an adjustment that took several months of having a new baby and figuring out when I could draw, which sometimes was not a lot at all in the beginning. Just, maybe an hour a day. And it's been just project managing since then to where like I've adjusted my sleep schedule probably 3 or 4 times over. Now I draw everything digitally. So now it's just 1 set per page. And now I feel like I'm actually like I've leveled up as a creator and now I'm ready to put out books.
Let's actually talk about that because
Mhm.
evolving is a very complicated thing. And I've evolved. I mean, obviously, COVID forced an evolution with me from going from doing
Mhm.
pre-recorded, just audio to getting on camera and doing live. And that evolution, the first, 20 in the middle of COVID were rough injuries. They weren't bad injuries, but they took some adjustment.
Yeah.
And obviously, even just my writing process has been massively streamlined. Where it used to take me, 8 years ago, 4 days to write an interview. Now it takes me 2 hours. So that's a pretty big significant time difference.
Yeah.
But what was that like? Because I think it is interesting when somebody's a cover artist or a colorist, and then they go into their own right and they say, "Cool, I'm gonna go and do a book now. I'm gonna go do interiors," and I think it's a good thing. But at the same time, it's tricky, and it's also a big step when you go down that path. So what was that like for you? Because especially when it's your book, it's a creator-owned book too, because it's falling on your head.
hmm it was a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. And I really don't know anybody else who's actually done it, who's gone from cover artist only to interiors. I don't know of anybody else because usually artists are either one or the other. And it takes a long time to perfect your skill. Like Jim Lee himself, I remember watching an interview, said it took him 10 years from the time he did his first X-Men cover to where he felt like really comfortable with his work. And this is my 9th year working in comics. So it's a similar time frame actually. But most people either really perfect the comic cover route or the sequential, that they're one or the other. They don't really like master both. And so doing that was a lot of pressure because you can spend 40 hours on a cover as a cover artist and make it perfect. And that's what I'm used to doing. But you can't spend that in sequentials. Sequentials is a totally different beast. You have to be fast, you have to hit deadlines, or else it doesn't matter how good your art is, you won't get the job. You can't put out books in time, people lose interest. So that was very stressful. And I have redone many pages many times over just because of the pressure of wanting my interiors to look like my covers when maybe they're not supposed to, but in the very least, I say under pressure, people usually, well, they go one way or the other. They either cave or maybe they rise to the occasion. And I felt like I've really done my best to try to rise to the occasion and provide really beautiful interiors. And it's taken me 2.5 years, but I think it's worth the wait because I think the interiors are and will continue to be really worth the money and the investment from people. So it was worth it. And that struggle goes back before even this Kickstarter, before even this book, because the industry has been so difficult. It was actually very hard to find work as a cover artist, like very hard. And there was no ladder to climb. It was just all over the place for hiring. So it's actually been a struggle on my mind for a lot longer than that to do sequentials. And this book is what actually put me in the drive to do it. So I guess I say I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but there's always room for improvement too. We'll see how it goes.
So even to go further into the whole process too, because obviously you brought it onto Kickstarter, and what was even that like? Because obviously you produced the book, and then you bring it to Kickstarter, and Kickstarter is a beast in of its own. Managing a campaign is complicated. It's a skill set. I ran something for myself and I funded, but it was still complicated to run it. I spent a
Mhm.
lot of time building out my campaign. And it's tricky. And there's a million things I would do now if I'm going to ever do another one. I'd probably simplify my campaign massively. I'd
Mm.
probably give 4 options, and that's it. And when I do run another one, I'm going to give maybe 4 or 5 options. Keep it simple. Use nice, colorful pictures, high res pics. But what was that like? Because this was, a whole different ball game. I feel for you as well, where producing good cover work, producing good art, going from covers to sequentials, but also then becoming a campaign manager.
Well, I have a bit of an edge. My secret weapon is that this is a lot like what I've done for 15 years. So lucky me, it's actually kind of like a dream come true out of every job I could have wanted. As I was a marketing manager, and I've worked in logistics, and I've worked in offices where I've been a graphic designer for over 15 years. I've worked in operations management and been manager several times. So lucky me, I have that experience because it is a beast. It is a beast. And I still go through that every day. I fight that beast, and I enjoy doing it because I get to talk to people. But yeah, it's 8 hours, 8 to 10 at least hours of work every day, and has been since the pre-launch, which was over 30 days ago. So, and that's what it takes, I think, to run a successful campaign. And then it will grow from there. So, I mean, I was just talking to my husband today. I could have a team of 2 people working for me right now, helping me go through orders, count the books, do that. I mean, I worked 8.5 hours today before I got on this stream. And just luckily I have the experience doing it. And then the robots took my job years back. They've taken my job twice. They can build websites now, which I used to do. And a lot of small businesses, they just advertise on Facebook business pages. So they fired all their marketing managers, and we kind of, got put by the wayside. So this is actually where all of my best creative energy can come together. And I love that. It's like a dream come true, actually. So it is hard work, but it's also a dream come true.
Yeah, and I mean, you did, I think, over 18,000 on Kickstarter, if I'm not
20,
mistaken.
27.9. And I would have been pushed over the max. There's quite a few people that have messaged me since wishing they got in. So, but I'd call it just right at about 28.
So what was that like too? Because obviously coming out of the gate on your first campaign, that is solely yours. Because I think you've been part of a few others, but you weren't running them. And coming out of the gate at almost 28,000, is very interesting, and it can be very daunting. And I mean, obviously, people like the concept. I would imagine people like some of the artwork, people like some of the variants. But even still, most people do not come swinging out of the gate who aren't, I guess have a name already established. No offense,
That's
unless you're
okay.
Scott Snyder or something like that. Most people don't come swinging out of the gate at 28,000. So what was that like for you as it was climbing up and really being active and really being pushed out there?
That confirmed that I had been doing my job right. Because if I am not doing my job right, then I'll see that. So I think it's a combination of building the following for 2.5 years, building the social media presence, building out the nicest graphics I could possibly bust out, building out the campaigns, doing a lot of research, coming up with a concept, but even the best concept with the crappiest art might not sell. So it had to be really top quality in every aspect. And that's just the marketing manager in me, like 100%. Everything has to be very quality inspected and meet a certain level of quality. And that number confirms that I feel I did my job right. And I've spent, it's just a reflection of the energy you put into it. And I think that's a lot of what Kickstarter is what you put into it. And that's where it gets really hard because you have to put a lot into it to get back, especially if you're a no-namer, compared to Scott Snyder like me. I think it was really interesting to see that number because I did a cover with Dynamite on Indiegogo about 2.5 years ago, and it made a little over 7,000. So coming from a publisher to doing it myself, that really was that felt really good because I feel like I've been kind of treated poorly in the past by some publishers. Others have been better, but to know that it's not necessary to like crawl to a publisher and be like, please, I need you, and like to give me that freedom is they might have opened a can of worms here, like I've got other titles and I'm swinging for the gates to go forward. This was just campaign number 1.
So to even talk about that, and obviously, Indiegogo and your Dynamite cover, and I think we spoke about that on our last interview as well. But one of the things is that obviously, I mean, the Kickstarter game and crowdfunding game has changed dramatically. Also, what people want has changed. And also, Indiegogo is a very different beast than Kickstarter. And so, even coming into it with that and building up the following, I mean, what was that like knowing that, oh, snap, we just did $28,000 on this book and we got a lot of cool variants. We got a lot of cool stuff going on. And, obviously, I mean, I don't know what infrastructure you have put in place, but this is where I think it's interesting because I don't know if you were ready for 28,000. And it's not a diss, but it wouldn't cross my mind as like a first time when I produce a book. If I do $5,000, I'll be shocked, and I probably won't be ready for $5,000. And that's what's so interesting is that, and it's not a diss. It's just like, oh snap, we got a problem. We got a really good problem. I would imagine is what it must have been like, because I don't think you expected to do 28,000 either.
I had no idea. I actually put it out of my mind completely. I did not estimate a number. And that's what I'm also like, that's kind of my method is, it doesn't matter to me what the number is. I don't have time to worry about it. So I have time to work and I have time to do a really dang good job. And it's just a keep pushing forward. It's a constant, like, just keep pushing forward, just keep pushing forward. And that's what I told myself all throughout the campaign. And I didn't really worry about the number. I did say, I did think, I was very nervous the week before I launched because I had no idea what to expect from Kickstarter. And I've been observing that market, and the marketing manager in me has been really like observing things as a whole.
Been a weird market, right? It's been a
very weird.
Market.
Yes, it is very weird. And I've watched it change a lot over the last 3 years. And I've watched creators like not deliver on books, and I've heard complaints, and I've seen indie boom, but then it was kind of like then people are starting to drop off indie, say, well, but the stories maybe aren't that great. We thought it would be because we're tired of the big two. But now we're still, the common denominator still is we want good books. And so that was always on my mind. Plus, like, there's a lot of creators that will bully each other and have bullied me off the platform, which I think is really just a competitive move to kill your competition and really nothing more. And so you have to deal with that. And I've dealt with that. So it's like good books is all that matters. And this is where I really just tap into that old, like, marketing Mindy. And you know what? I was really, really good at all of my old jobs. I was a good employee. So this is me, like, at day one at work of they don't know what they did. They don't know what they unleashed yet. This is what I'm really good at, is like forcing myself to make everything as good as possible and providing good content. Now, I'm not bragging, I still have to face the critique of the book when it comes out. But what I mean is I'm a very committed person. And when I commit to something, like, I really have to give 110%. So that's what I did here. So if that's good and you like that and people liked that, then that's great, because I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm very committed now. So we'll see where that goes, and we'll see what I get back from it. I enjoy making people happy, honestly. So that's what I'm here to do.
And I think you touched upon it, but obviously, I mean, this gives you a lot of creative control over your product and your book. And creative control is a very, very cool thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I control this show any which way I want to. And it's a very powerful thing. And so what is that like too? Because coming from a bunch of, publishers that you've worked with and having some good experiences, some bad experiences, obviously working with Dynamite, and that, I think it was a Vampirella cover, if I'm not mistaken. And then going into now, saying, hey, I control a book and I can make real money on this. It's not that you just did $5,000, you did 28,000 minus a few $100s here or there. And so what is that like? Because it's kind of the gates have fallen down, for lack of a better word, on what you can and can't do now. And I think it's easier than ever, but it's also harder than ever.
Yes. Yes. It's very much like I've started a business now. Like this is a full-blown business. It's got support behind it. So now we're go time. So fun time is kind of over now. Right now, I've kicked into like, all right, honing in on shipments, fulfillment, work. But it's very freeing because have had problems with publishers being ridiculous. And the last thing on their mind was the actual book. Like I had a publisher tell me, years ago, like they were more concerned about what I said on Facebook and what I could and couldn't say and what I did and did not think politically or believe in, and that was more important than the book. And then at the same time, they said, oh, well, we're late on our deadline, just throw something together. So the fact that you're a publisher in this business and your very last priority is your book is upsetting to me. And to know that I've kind of like, I have that freedom is relieving because I didn't think that comics deserved that. That was disappointing to me, and I saw a lot of that sort of stuff. So now I get to wake up every day and I get to just be free, creative, and do what I want to do, and people are receptive to that and positive to that. So it's been a very interesting, like, big shift from being told by publishers that I was a failure, I was never going to make it or whatever, because it was like a power trip. I ran into quite a few people and creators who had like power trips and said, if you don't believe this, if you don't act this way, if you don't do this for me, I'm going to badmouth you, I'm going to blacklist you. I've come into that. And so now that I'm like, it's like the tables have kind of gone like this. And I'm like, heck yeah, I can wake up and I can give these people boobs. and we're having, and on top of that, we're all having like an amazingly wonderful positive vibe, which is a 180 from when I worked in comics. So that whole transformation, like, it's been so difficult, but it's so worth the reward to have that positive vibe. This is the most fun I've ever had in the industry. So I don't need a publisher. I don't want a publisher. Nope. I'm done. They had their chances. I'm good now. I'll do it myself.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I would love a publisher, but that's neither here nor there. But I would like it for second life on a book, not necessarily for the first round. But who knows? Who knows when I produce a book? I'm pretty sure nobody's gonna want my book and to be published. Oh, it's gonna be so good. You're gonna hate me for my project. They're gonna hate me. Oh my god, so good.
I used to want a publisher. I used to so badly want a publisher,
Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting? So I actually never said this publicly. I used to present at anime cons, and all I wanted when I first started was to just be in the program. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. I did 50 of them, and that's all I wanted was just a little thank you. Maybe somebody buys me a beer. When I'm doing 6 panels, maybe they give me a food stipend, anything. Just put me in the program. I'm doing 6 panels for you guys. You could throw me a bone. You can make an introduction for me. None of it. Now, I don't want any of that. I just want to be paid, and I want to be paid nicely. And I have a rate, and it's expensive because I put in the work. And I'm worth every penny of it or I could sit at home and I could legitimately play video games. So it's not going to change my life. So somebody wants me at a con, I'm very expensive is the point. But now I just want to be paid. I don't want the clout. I don't. And I don't know how you feel, but I don't want the clout. It doesn't mean anything. I don't need to be in your program at a Comic-Con. I don't need to be a guest. I just want to be paid. You can put whoever you want. It doesn't bother me. I want to be paid better than they are.
I like you, Andrew. Fun.
I could have been bought for a picture and a little blurb about me. 3 sentences in my picture in the program could have bought me for life.
Well, that's the thing. That's what happens and I feel the same way. Like all I wanted was the chance. And I was always like running into the ceiling of like, no, Mindy, no, Mindy, no, Mindy, no, Mindy. And then on top of all that, a publisher started outsourcing, and I felt like they got lazy. And then they would, one of them word for word told me, I said, what can I do to get hired? I was very actually aggressive for a while, like showing my portfolio and flaunting my work, being like, come on, give me a job. I want to do this. I'm so excited to do this. I want to do this art. I'm so committed to this. And they told me, go out, do a comic online for free. And then, when it goes viral, we'll hire you. And that was a common theme in the publishers. It's like they decided to stop pushing people, and they definitely weren't behind you. They'd be the first to throw you under the bus should you like say something not exactly in line, which didn't make sense to me because they were hiring me for my art. I didn't know I had to like completely change myself as a person to work for them. But I did. And it was more like we'll hire people with higher Instagram followings, and that's what we care about. That's what that's what they told me that.
It's funny. I had a sponsor. I don't know if I interviewed you when I had Mixum as a sponsor, but I brought Mixum a lot of sales. I brought them over 5 figures in sales. I go to another company, and their response to me is, "Oh, your accounts don't have a high number." And I'm like, "I brought this other company over $10,000 worth of sales. What are we talking about here? I'm going to bring you sales." And the company didn't get it. And I just shot them a message today. I said, "Hey, how's business?" And like they were at like 4,800 on Instagram. They're at 4,000 now. And I'm just like, but like, who cares what Instagram numbers are? Who cares what YouTube numbers are? I care about sales. I care about the bottom dollar, and I care about what I'm worth. And I think it's a real problem in the industry right now. And I think it's a problem collectively where, cool, somebody has 6 million followers. I'll throw a famous cosplayer out there. Jessica Nigeri has an engagement rate of like 3.2% on her Instagram. She's got 3.9 million followers. Now, 3.2% of 3.9 million is a lot of people, but there are cosplayers who have 100,000 who have a 12% engagement rate.
Yeah.
And so, there's a reason why certain people work with less cosplayers who have less of a following, but a higher engagement rate.
The
Because
engagement rate is very important. Yes, I agree.
the cost base and the base of acquiring a customer at a higher engagement rate with less followers is cheaper than with a lower engagement rate with a higher following. It's actually more expensive the other way around.
Interesting.
And all these companies like Hot Topic, if you look at Hot Topics like Brochure, all those people have less than 1 million followers on Instagram. It's crazy. They've made a conscious choice to not go after certain people, and it's wild.
That's interesting. See, I find this so very interesting because I used to work in marketing back selling newspaper ads, right? And like making flash banners on websites and selling the flash banners. So it's evolved so much, digital marketing. And I think that a few years back, that's when I said I lost my job to robots. It's like that information you just told me has been learned. The people are finally learning that that's important. And it kind of almost actually goes back to the newspaper ads and engagement and the same old marketing that is true no matter what medium. But when digital marketing started really booming in like 2012 and beyond, like people have all come into this knowledge, and that's just us living in the digital age, and it hasn't made much sense. And they'll sometimes make stupid choices as we all learn and evolve together. And I think a lot of those stupid choices were, let's hire artists based on their Instagram followings instead of their talent and their skill, and writers as well. And I think you can see that reflected in a lot of the media and a lot of the comics in bigger or bigger channels. And fans notice that. It's not the quality that it used to be. And that's what they get. That's what they get for hiring based on not quality. That's exactly what they get.
I think it's very, very, very interesting. And I think that a lot of stuff is going on right now. And I think it's a very, very, very interesting world we live in. And I think that a lot of hype is happening. And I think there's going to be a revolution. And I also think that with stagflation coming, it's going to be exposed more and more and more. I really do. I'm very pessimistic. So I'm a pessimistic person, which means I'm always right.
Well, okay, so I totally I get exactly where you're coming from, but then I'm a bit of an optimist after the pessimism sets in, and I think in the long term, in the long term,
No,
like,
you're wrong.
oh, I'm wrong. Well, no, I asked my husband. I'm pretty smart when it comes to economic trends and social trends, I guess. I've been right quite a lot the past few years, but maybe you're more right than me. But the thing is, I think that like kind of the truth always wins, and that sounds cheesy, but I think people who put in the actual time and put in the work, just like your engagement rates, in the end, that's where the chips fall. And people who are just riding on hypes, that's the thing about hypes. They fall. They're just hypes. So you have to watch yourself and not put all your eggs in one basket to try to cash in. That's not, people see through that over time. And that's been a lot of the past 2.5 years in comics is people have seen through, well, this company or this creator really just I feel used, or I feel like they just stepped on me to get to the next place, and I don't think that that lasts forever.
Yeah, I think a lot of stuff is going to get interesting.
Yeah.
But again, I am very pessimistic, which means I'm always right. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say is that I'm but I get it completely, and I understand. So I get it, but it is fascinating, and I enjoy this industry. So all I know is that yeah. So there we go. I'm always right, but I'm good at economics, so that's the only thing that matters. Um, I think what's going to happen is that I think good quality is actually going to rise out because I'm in this
Mhm.
space buying and selling comics. So certain books are always going to sell well. And we look at certain books and certain quality of books, and they always trade at a certain premium. And there's all these books that I think are going to actually trade at a lower premium. And I think that we're going to have a real shaking up when we hit stagflation, which I think is coming. I think we're in the increment of it. I think we're out of somewhat of a recession. I think it's going to stay stagnant for the next 12 to 15 months. I really
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
Man, I think we're going to get a very slow growth for the next 2 to 3 years. And we're going to see which books trade always at a high value and which don't, and which Kickstarters trade at a high value and which don't. Because I mean, stretch goals are going to matter. All sorts of stuff is going to matter. Work's going to matter. Concept's going to matter. What cover artist is working on that book or that Kickstarter, and even the price. I think that that's all going to play a major factor in the
Interesting.
next 15 months. And I think it's going to be fascinating. And we're going to see what happens. And I think people are going to be in for a very interesting awakening.
I'm very, very sold on what you're saying, and I just want to hear you talk about it like continuously, and then come back in like a few months and check in.
I think a lot of things are overhyped. I really do. I think a lot of companies are a little bit overhyped right now. Oh, not just in Kickstarter, but just publicly.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we're gonna see what happens with those companies. And I think people are like, I get it that this stuff is a bit overhyped, and I think that there's gonna be some giving back with those companies. They're gonna give back some yards.
Hmm.
Is all I'm gonna say. Very
Interesting.
very heavy, and I think it's people. I think people are gonna be a little surprised when those companies give back some yards or give back some dollars over their second, third, fourth issues. Don't fetch, and even new properties don't fetch what they need. I think it's gonna be very interesting. I think there's gonna be a real shakeup, and I think people are gonna have to dig deep into their bench and their bullpen. I use these sports analogies; they're fun.
That's very interesting. I always seem to come at the weirdest times of things. I blame my astrological symbol. I'm a Pisces, so I'm two fish tied together going opposite directions. It's the salmon. And I can either go with the flow and just like do what everybody's doing, but never get the reward, never get to where I'm meant to be, or I can be the other salmon that always has to fight upstream against everybody and what they're doing and do it the hard way and do it against the grain. But eventually, when I get to the river where the salmon's supposed to lay the eggs, I get the reward and I'm home. That's
I'm
the
a
Pisces.
contemporary investor, and it served me well. It has legitimately served me well, all my
Right.
life, and I'm not about to change myself either. And I'm a contrarian gambler too, which is a problem, but that's not the point. That has also served me well. But I digress. I digress heavy. But yes, so that's kind of where I'm at with all of this and everything that's going on. And obviously, I mean, you got a lot of stuff going on. Your campaign just wrapped up. I think you're in pre-orders as well. That people can pre-order it. I think I put the website up above in
Okay.
the description, or not in the description, but in the comment sections. So I think that people on YouTube and on Facebook can see it. They might not be able to see it in the group. If you're watching the group, just head over to YouTube or head over to my Facebook page, and you should be able to see it there. But yeah, so what is this like for those who missed it? Because I think they can still get it.
Yeah. We've been working all week. It's been busy nonstop. The campaign closed Friday night. Saturday night, I was ended up going to the 10th Planet in Northwest Indiana, and spent hours there. And it was like a miniature convention. It was so much fun. I haven't been to a convention in many years. And there's like this massive group of people, and I had a table that I was talking. It was so much fun, man. I had a blast on Saturday, but I was exhausted, and then I woke up and started working again, and we've been working all weekend on this website to launch it, because there have been people who missed it that want it. So yes, the website is live. It should be fine to take orders now. Went through testing it. Looks good. Everything should be fine. There's a couple more products I will add. I will add some t-shirts. I will add per request, a sketch cover commission product. But yeah, it's going to deliver the same as the rest of the campaign does. So it's just basically an extra order. I did not use backer kit. That's one thing that I don't think it was necessary for me. So there's usually an extra capture with backer kit after your campaign ends. You can take orders again with backer kit beyond the campaign, but that's what my website does. I don't need backer kit to do that for me. So that's where I'm directing traffic. And that is the Divinity Comics, which is the imprint that Boobs is under now, which is owned by us. That will have all of our future titles as well. So yeah, that's where we go. That's where we go with this. And then we're into issue 2 launch in August. It will be busy and fun. Very fun.
So are you going to be fulfilling before August?
Yes. Yeah, my husband and I have
a big issue on Kickstarter. It's a big
I see, I don't understand that. I don't understand. I'm a person that has to do a lot of things. That has to prepare and have my ducks in a row. It's just a work experience. I would never launch a Kickstarter I wasn't prepared to fulfill, with the exception of the funding falling through last time, so I couldn't do what I wanted to do, and that was a big bummer. But I also kept in contact, and everybody who was there then is here now. So it's all good. I haven't really had any issues.
It's a real issue right now, because there are people who are running 12, 13, 14 campaigns, and they're not of the same book. I'm not doing issue 1 in 3 weeks. I'm doing issue 2. It's more like I have a different title, and I get it, but you also didn't fulfill your other title, and Kickstarter allows it. And I think it is a very dangerous position, because we all seen how this ends. You're going down the road, guys. I'm going to give an analogy. And you're on a bicycle. Great. You hit it, and you hit a little pebble. You're fine. But your tire's a little beat up. Then you go down the road again and again and again, and you hit a bigger pebble. And by the third time, you hit a slightly bigger pebble, and then you go flying, and now your knees are scraped. So what the other way to look at this is that you do Kickstarter A, and then you launch Kickstarter B, and eventually A funded itself, B funded itself. Then you do C, and C doesn't fund itself, so you go to D. D helps fund C, but you're still out on D, and then E doesn't fund itself, and now you're behind. And then you run F. F doesn't fund E, so now you're out still on E. F's a disaster, and then you go to G, and then G barely makes it, barely covers F. You're halfway to F, and then now, because this is how this ends. This is exactly how this ends, is that it becomes you move money from one to the other, to the other, to the other, and it becomes a Ponzi scheme. This is how it ends. This is the problem Kickstarter will face in the next 3 to 5 years. And there will be a bunch of these that happen.
Wow. Yeah, well, that's
because they allowed it. They openly allowed it. And it is the most dangerous thing to do to a customer. Kickstarter has basically said with their policy, and this is controversial, is that they have said our real customer is our campaign, people who are launching the campaigns, it's not me who's the backer. Because
Of course.
what they did is they basically eliminated consumer protection.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they did. I caught on to that a while ago. Yeah, exactly. That's what they make a percentage off every campaign. But
Their
that's
customers,
their
not
business
me.
model. Yeah, that's their business model. Their customer is they take on the risk. So if you have a beef with the creator, you should be not supporting that creator because they're the ones that have caused the issue. That you can't do anything with Kickstarter about that. That's not Kickstarter's model. But I get surprised that there's a lot of creators that seem to have gone rampant with not fulfilling, and on top of that treating their fans like crap. And I really don't understand that. Someone today I messaged or messaged me with some I hear like surprising things all the time. I'm like, really wow. It was the campaign ended Friday. I'm here Monday after building a website and making an appearance on Free Comic Book Day, working all weekend. I'm here, or it's Tuesday. I'm here Tuesday. I'm counting all of my books. I'm putting in my orders for the print shop. I'm in communication. I'm building out invoices for printing. Apparently, like, people don't do that. Some people don't do that, and I'm surprised because that's exactly what I just got paid to do by all the people who supported the book. Someone messaged me today and said, "Wow, this is like the first time I've ever been contacted so early about my order and confirming my order." And I'm like, "Really? But that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to fulfill. My product is finished, except for I did sell about 4 drawn in tiers, so people's faces are going to be in the pages." So that's really cool. So I've already got all the pictures ready to go. So now I'm just adding those, like drawing them into the book. Once that's done, it goes to print. It gets fulfilled. It will be all fulfilled before August. Most definitely August. I'd be surprised if it doesn't all get fulfilled before the end of June or mid-June, because my husband and I can ship 50 comics a day. We've done it before. So at 526 orders, 526 orders is a week of work. So I don't see how I'm just surprised. I'm just very surprised. Coming from a marketing and logistics background, it's like very shocking to me to hear that this has been such a big problem because that's not how I run things.
Yeah, no, I the most I ship in a day, and the most I have shipped was 14 books,
Yeah,
which is a
yeah,
lot. I mean,
it
it's a
is a lot. Yep.
that's just on my eBay business. Um, but yeah, no, I usually ship anywhere from like 5 to 6.
Mm,
Mostly, but also I like to make one trip to the post office. It's easier. I
yep.
also like but I like to space it out just on my credit card. So nice, but yeah, it's tricky. But enough about that. I do want to let you get out of here because I know we're slightly over your time. Um,
Yes, I gotta go get the kids to bed.
yeah,
50
yeah,
comics a
yeah.
day was painful.
I don't have children yet, guys. But I do have a basketball game to watch. The Nuggets are up by 8 points. Um, Philly won, guys. Philly won. It was a great game. Philly won. They're up 3-2. One more game, game 6. Hopefully they can win me some money, and Miami's gonna win tomorrow night, which will win me money too. Actually, no, they're playing on Thursday, I think. So that's not the point. Golden State lost me money, so I'm very upset about that. But I digress. I do not have a problem, I promise. But don't worry. My winnings go into buying comics, guys, and baseball cards. It's all right. So I get a pass. But anyhow, they're up by 10, by the way. Anyhow, I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. Where can people find you, bother you, disturb you, get boobs? The comic. I want to make that crystal clear. The comic. Yeah, we are a relatively safe show. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm like Clay Travis. The two things that have never failed me in America are beer and boobs. I can tell you that.
Yay.
Um, and that's why I'm not allowed on CNN anymore. It's crystal clear to me. But don't worry, neither is Don Lemon, so it's all right. That was too easy. That was too easy. I think people can appreciate that joke. But anyhow, I digress. Where can people support you? I don't know. Get your comic, all that fun stuff.
Well, the Kickstarter's over. Divinitycomics.com is my website. And it should be live. Everything should be pretty clear. I made very sure, and if there's any discrepancies, feel free to reach out to me. I'm very big on transparency. Like, I think it's important to know, for people to know that if they ever see an issue, like, tell me. And people were super cool about that in the Kickstarter campaign, and that's part of what made the whole campaign like do well, I think, and flow because I adapted it to the needs of people. So I'm very open to talking. Anybody needs to talk, anybody needs anything, message me, email me, boobscomic@gmail.com, or message me, go onto the website, check it out. I double, triple checked that the pricing was like exactly the same on Kickstarter, except the Kickstarter was actually a little cheaper. So that means when Kickstarters do come out, that's probably your chance to get the best deal. So issue 2 is coming out in August. And like I said, it'll be fulfilled before then. So I'm in the business of treating people well and enjoying good laughs and having fun and providing entertaining content, because that's what I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, enjoy doing. So follow me. I'm Mindy Wheeler. I'm around. Internet. You can go and find me, Mindy Wheeler Art, anywhere.
Well, obviously, and I'm going to keep saying it, you have to support indie. And what that means is that if you like something, you need to go out and support it. And in particular, when Kickstarters are active, you need to go back people's Kickstarters. And if their book comes to a website, or they're at a con, or they're in a comic shop, wherever they might be, you need to go buy their books either directly or indirectly, or, messaging somebody on Facebook, because a lot of times people have these books and they have excess stock. And so obviously that's something that, I'm sure that after a campaign, if somebody has excess books, they're more than happy to sell it to you. I'm pretty sure of that. Or, go to your store, and if they have a retail package, who knows, maybe they have one, and get it from your local comic shop, because that's just as important as well. Or your local eBay shop, or your foreign eBay shop, because I bring in indie books all the time into my eBay shop, Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. So obviously that's another thing to do as well, is that supporting, local businesses, small businesses, all sorts of businesses, very helpful. As far as I'm concerned about me, obviously I'm Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Definitely subscribe, follow me on all social media, check me out on YouTube. I have almost 500 interviews up on YouTube now. So there's an interview for everybody out there. There's all this micro content coming out. So if you don't want to watch a full interview, but you want to watch a 3-minute clip, I got a bunch of those that come out almost daily, every day. And then I might take like a week off, and then like a whole batch of them are coming out. And it's a bunch of different stuff. And it's a nice mixture between voice actors, and you never know who's going to be coming on my show or who's been on my show. Good example is the original Nurse Show was on my show. And then a bunch of other cool people were on my show too, in comics, and wrestlers, and the Bushwhackers were on. So you never know who's going to come on. So keep that in mind. As well as I do have Buy Me a Coffee if you want to support independent media. My ad rates are down below, and a bunch of other cool stuff that I do. My t-shirts up there as well, so check that out. And that's everything I got. But enough about me. Also, go back Nightwolf. It's ending like tomorrow night, guys. It's a good book if you like werewolves and a bunch of cool stuff. Rob's a great creator, so definitely check that out. And that's everything that I have, and I'm going to give you the final word.
Go grab Boobs and hold it in your hand before August.
Well, I'm going to take the fifth on that one. And that is a wrap, everybody.